Tittle. British Airways Flight 5390, the captain, who was sucked out of the cockpit. On June 10, 1990, British Airways Flight 5390, a scheduled flight from Birmingham, England to Malaga, Spain, experienced one of the most terrifying incidents in aviation history. Midway through the flight, the cockpit windshield blew out, causing an explosive decompression that partially sucked the captain out of the aircraft. In a dramatic display of teamwork and quick thinking, the flight crew managed to pull him back inside, while the co-pilot safely landed the plane. Miraculously, despite the horrifying ordeal, the captain survived. This extraordinary event highlighted the importance of cockpit safety, emergency procedures, and crew coordination. The flight and crew. British Airways Flight 5390 was a regularly scheduled passenger flight operated by a BAC-111 aircraft, a popular twin-engine jetliner used for short-haul routes. The aircraft was carrying 81 passengers and 6 crew members, including Captain Tim Lancaster, an experienced pilot with thousands of flight hours, First Officer Alastair Atchison, the co-pilot, who would play a critical role in saving the flight. Cabin crew, led by flight attendants Nigel Ogden, John Heward, and Simon Rogers. The aircraft departed Birmingham at 8:20 a.m., climbing toward its cruising altitude of 23,000 feet. The weather was clear and everything appeared normal. The incident, windshield failure at 23,000 feet. Just 13 minutes after takeoff, as the aircraft reached its cruising altitude, disaster struck. Suddenly, with a loud bang, the left cockpit windshield blew out. The force of the decompression instantly sucked Captain Lancaster out of his seat. His upper body was pulled completely out of the aircraft, with only his legs caught on the controls. The sudden loss of the windshield created a massive drop in cabin pressure, causing an explosive decompression. A violent rush of air filled the cockpit, making communication nearly impossible. The cockpit door blew off its hinges, slamming into the control panel behind the pilots. Loose items, including papers and equipment, were sucked out of the cockpit. Miracle amidst chaos. Flight attendant Nigel Ogden, who was entering the cockpit at that moment, saw Lancaster being pulled out. Without hesitation, he grabbed Lancaster's legs and held onto him as tightly as possible. However, the force of the wind was so strong that it nearly ripped Ogden's arms from their sockets. Lancaster's body was exposed to sub-zero temperatures and 400 mph winds, with his head and upper torso hanging outside the aircraft. His eyes were wide open, but he wasn't moving. Ogden was soon joined by 2 other flight attendants, John Heward and Simon Rogers, who helped hold on to the captain while securing themselves inside the cockpit. The crew feared that if they let go, Lancaster would be sucked completely out and lost forever. The fight for survival. With the captain unresponsive and hanging outside the aircraft, co-pilot Alastair Atchison was now in full control of the flight. Despite the deafening wind and extreme cold, Atchison remained calm and focused. Lessons learned and safety changes. The incident led to several important safety improvements. 1. Stricter aircraft maintenance. Procedures. Airlines introduced more rigorous inspection. Protocols for cockpit windshields. 2. Improved windshield bolt. Standards. Manufacturers revised the bolting systems used to secure cockpit windows. 3. Better crew training for emergencies. The successful handling of the crisis demonstrated the importance of pilot and cabin crew coordination. Throughout the ordeal, the flight attendants continued holding on to Lancaster, believing he was dead. However, they refused to let go, fearing his body might be sucked into an engine or damage the aircraft further. After several tense minutes, the crew managed to pull Lancaster's body back inside. To their shock, he was still alive but unconscious, suffering from frostbite, shock, and multiple bruises. The emergency landing. With Captain Lancaster back inside the cockpit, First Officer Atchison prepared for an emergency landing. The aircraft was diverted to Southampton Airport, which had suitable facilities for emergency landings. ATC cleared all other traffic and prepared emergency personnel on the ground. Atchison performed a perfect emergency landing despite the stress and damage to the aircraft. At 8:55 a.m., British Airways Flight 5390 safely touched down in Southampton. The passengers, who had been largely unaware of what happened in the cockpit, were evacuated safely. Emergency medical teams rushed to assist Captain Lancaster and the injured crew members. The aftermath and investigation. The investigation into the accident was conducted by the Air Accidents Investigation Branch, IB of the UK. Cause of the accident. Investigators discovered that the cockpit windshield had been improperly installed. The bolts used to secure the windshield were the wrong size, too small to handle the pressure. At high altitudes, maintenance records showed that the windshield had been replaced just 27 hours before the flight. The technician responsible for the replacement had used the wrong bolts, and they were not properly inspected before the flight. Over time, the vibrations and air pressure caused the bolts to loosen, leading to the catastrophic failure of the windshield. Survivors and injuries. Captain Tim Lancaster miraculously survived, though he suffered frostbite, broken bones, and shock. Flight attendant Nigel Ogden sustained injuries to his arms and shoulders from holding on to Lancaster. All passengers and the rest of the crew were unharmed. Despite his ordeal, Lancaster made a full recovery and returned to flying after 5 months. Lessons learned and safety changes. The incident led to several important safety improvements. 1. Stricter aircraft maintenance. Procedures. Airlines introduced more rigorous inspection. Protocols for cockpit windshields. 2. Improved windshield bolt standards. Manufacturers revised the bolting systems used to secure cockpit windows. 3. Better crew training for emergencies. The successful handling of the crisis demonstrated the importance of pilot and cabin crew coordination. Piloting skills under extreme pressure. Legacy of Flight 5390. The story of British Airways. Flight 5390 remains one of the most astonishing survival stories in aviation history. The courage and quick thinking of the crew saved not only Captain Lancaster but also the lives of everyone on board. This incident reinforced the importance of rigorous aircraft maintenance and emergency preparedness in aviation. Today, flight crews around the world study Flight 5392 as a case study in crisis management and teamwork. British Airways Flight 5390 stands as one of the most remarkable survival stories in aviation history. What could have ended in disaster was instead a testament to the courage, skill, and determination of the crew. Their quick thinking and teamwork ensured that every passenger made it home safely, and their actions continue to be studied as an example of professionalism under extreme pressure. This incident also reinforced the importance of meticulous aircraft maintenance, leading to improvements that have made air travel even safer today. Though terrifying, the story of Flight 5390 remains a powerful reminder of human resilience and the critical role of aviation safety.